Hello guys, Termex here, and I'm back with another Borderlands video. Today's video I do want to talk about the Borderlands series as a whole and where exactly it went wrong, because I've kind of made a lot of videos criticizing Borderlands, talking about things within the community, and in general just important things in my mind that I'd like to share and discuss. But there is a train of Wonderlands on its decline. I don't see many Borderlands creators even talking about it anymore, and it's actually been kind of sad seeing how dead the Borderlands community feels right now, at least from a online standpoint. And with a new entry into the Borderlands universe, it almost feels like Borderlands as a whole, their writers are still in 2013 and we as the players have grown up, and it seems like everything's childish but in a bad way. Now I will say before I get any further about talking about new tales from the Borderlands, I'm going to be spoiling basically a lot of things about the game, so if you never played it, go play it, or if you don't really care and you just want to hear what happens, keep watching. But in New Tales from the Borderlands, we have all these new people, and Octavio being the main character. You've probably seen him in the trailers with the yellow jacket. He's very loud and annoying, kind of like the human implementation of Claptrap. He kind of ruined the game for me as a quote-unquote main character. I actually envied his sister more than him, and he's the main character. I know technically it's three main characters, but he's the main focus of the entire game. But his sister had way better writing, way better personality, and she was almost like more mature players in the Borderlands series that thought everything was cringe and stupid, which it was. I think everything from the Borderlands series has started with Borderlands 3. Borderlands a pre-sequel, I'm not even going to say it started there, because Borderlands a pre-sequel may have lacked endgame content and may have lacked a lot of key features that we liked, but they did promote it as a spin-off, and maybe naming it Borderlands or pre-sequel, just having the Borderlands name and not delivering on what the Borderlands name usually delivers on, left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But the pre-sequel evolved on so many things and made things so much better. And on top of that, the story writing never lacked in that game. Comparatively with Borderlands 1 and 2, Borderlands 1 story was a little iffy, but Borderlands 2 in the pre-sequel and the first Tales game, the story was just amazing. I loved it. I loved how everything connected. I loved the different stories and the characters and how well written they were. Even pre-sequel had some notable side characters that were just hilarious. And I think when we shift into Borderlands 3, where we have COVID going on, not going to say that's why the Borderlands franchise is where it is now, because I think that is a poor excuse at this point, but it did affect Borderlands 3 in the long run. I do think having the lack of characters and how much the community loves and connects with these characters really killed Borderlands 3 for a lot of people. How the whole storyline shifted from a very mature, with a little bit of funny mixed in with Handsome Jack taking over Pandora, the pre-sequel learning about the arc of Handsome Jack, Tales kind of showing how other people impacted Borderlands as a whole. We go into Borderlands 3, where we have a influencer that doesn't really feel like she's doing anything evil up until like the last hour of the game, and then you have little generic cutoffs in the writing where Maya dies because plot, and I get it, you want characters to die to build a more emotional connection, but make them impactful, make them like Scooter, where it actually means something when Scooter died. There's a reason he died, and you could see that as the player. Or you look at Roland and how he died because he was careless, but it's also Lilith's fault because she went into the chambers of Angel when she wasn't supposed to. So everything happens for a reason and for a greater purpose. But with Maya, we had zero of that. We had Maya get absorbed into dust and left a book behind that the Ava murder mystery missions kind of built upon a little bit, but really not for a bigger purpose just yet, other than the fact that Ava does have her siren powers and we don't know the significance in the future. Maybe the next Borderlands game will connect the dots and I'll eat my words on this statement, but it did leave me as the player very empty when it came to like why did Maya die in the first place, because it didn't feel like a valid reason. It just felt like Maya died because we need emotion, and I did not like that about her death whatsoever. Especially such a loved character dying in that fashion and then scrapping that deleted Ava cutscene was a slap in the face, especially not leaking, I guess they did release it as part of a DLC. All the cut content just made it worse. It made it infinitely worse knowing that's what we could have gotten, and Maya's death would have had a slightly higher purpose. Now I'm going to address New Tales and Wonderlands as one when I talk about my next few talking points, because I do want to refer back to the story. With Wonderlands, the story was actually pretty cool in a lot of ways, because the note taker was actually Roland, and through the notes we actually learned that that Roland was the one that taught Tina bunkers and badasses because she went through a lot of stuff with her parents going in the iridium testing and all that. So it was like a coping mechanism for Tina, and it was pretty sad when Roland said they'll finish a game when he comes back with the Crimson Raiders, but Roland never came back to finish her game of bunkers and badasses. Really great writing, and if you're wondering, Term, where are you getting this from? They don't really tell you that in the story. It's little tiny scrolls you pick up with narration, so you might have not even known that occurred in the Borderlands series.
Look at this place. You've been busy, Tina. This cave is almost cozy.
Oh, this is nothing. I got plans, baby. Gonna be bombs and hot babes everywhere.
Is this a tea set? Mind if I sit down?
No. Do not sit there. It's, that seat is reserved.
Right. Look, Tina, I came by to say I'm sorry. I hope I didn't ruin bunkers and badasses for you.
Oh, that? I already forgot about that. Yeah. Why? Do you want to play?
You know, I can't right now. Being the leader of an army is more work than I thought. But once things are better, yeah, come on, we'll play. I promise.
But I do think it was a great way to show off Tina's grief, kind of like Assault on Dragon Keep did, and a little bit more backstory in the franchise. Nothing wrong with that. And I didn't mind the story writing in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. It was good, but it could have been better. We look at the Dragon Lord with ill intent because he's supposed to be the big bad guy, but I think we forget the Dragon Lord isn't an actual person, you know? But all the storytelling through the scrolls could have been conveyed in such a better way to where the story in Wonderlands was way more memorable and way more heartfelt, not just, you know, reading notes and pieces of paper. But the same could also go for New Tales. Talking about the New Tales story, it felt like so much filler that was so unnecessary that I couldn't give two lessons of a shit about, with half-witted jokes that sounded like we were on a laugh reel and whoever directed the writing had a, oh my god, that's funny button, let's make a fart joke, let's make a poop joke. I shit you not, no pun intended there. The last fight scene where everything's supposed to be tense and like important, Octavio was dancing to the hold music with his Echo Watch. His friends are in jeopardy and he's just dancing there. I don't know, man. Is it because dancing in an important situation is funny? Did you think everyone playing was like, oh my god, he's dancing, that's so hilarious during this situation? No, it made it so cringe. I don't throw that word around very much, but it was just cringe. And the Borderlands series maybe has some cringe moments objectively, but usually when Borderlands does the funny, they do the funny right. But New Tales feels like somebody watched the first Borderlands trailer from 2008 and they're like, oh my god, this game's about poop joke, let's make whole game poop joke, and it kind of just killed it for me. But I will say New Tales did have some interesting things. They rehired Fiona's voice actor for like 30 seconds at the end. Yeah, Fiona is in New Tales from the Borderlands, but only in the last 30 seconds, and she steals something from Marcus and just kind of dips.
Destroying a doomsday weapon, freeing a cosmic demigod, and toppling a major corporation? Not bad for three nobodies. And a robot. After that, Promethea returned to business as usual. Corporate squabbles, casual murders, holidays with the family.
So, any idea where the shard is heading?
Not a clue. No one's made any sense of its trail.
It's funny. This Anu and Octavio. Two siblings who hadn't spoken in years, but ultimately risked their lives for each other. Two halves of a whole.
That resonates with you?
Oh yeah. That's the key to this whole thing, isn't it?
Wait, what are you saying?
I'm saying no one's looked at the bigger picture.
It's headed into the Gladius Nebula. Great find, Fiona. And she's gone. And she took my wallet? Con artists.
I feel the most important aspects of this game were Reese. You can tell they tried to do Reese so perfectly, and they did do him well. They did Reese very well. But why did you not put that effort into all the other characters in the game and make them likable? If you know Reese was so successful in pulling the audience, why would you work so hard to maintain his character development and then just completely ignore everybody else's character development for the sake of, let's make this game laughable? It just throws me off. Fiona comes in at the last second, and I really wish they didn't bait us for the next game with her being there. Why was the next new Tales game not about Fiona and Reese again? Or like what happened? Or like why wasn't Fiona as her character introduced to Reese or even Sasha at that point towards, you know, in the game? I don't understand. But they put cosmetics, so that's where the priorities are, apparently. But I don't know, coming from the first Tales from the Borderlands, you would think it would continue, not kind of be another bridging gap to another. Like, what are you going to even name the next Tales game that would introduce all these characters? New Tales from the Borderlands 2? But now let's look into gameplay, and I think the pre-sequel is when gameplay side of things started to just take a downward spiral for the Borderlands series. If you look at the pre-sequel, it didn't have a lot of endgame contents. It didn't have good DLCs that lived up to everyone's expectations, and a lot of other minor and major inconveniences I could list here for hours and hours, but if you're a Borderlands fan, you know what I'm talking about. I will give credit to the pre-sequel with the Oz kits and how they implemented that system, and same goes for Wonderlands when it comes to how they implemented spells and, you know, all the new action skills. But the fundamentally broken thing about the pre-sequel is just the lack of, and that's really the main thing. I do love the DLC characters that were introduced, that I have no idea why Borderlands 3 did not follow suit. I think that was a mistake for Borderlands 3. And you would think they would learn from the pre-sequel, like what not to do, and like give us a more replayable endgame. And, you know, Borderlands 3 kind of did that. They made a lot of features so much easier for your general player base to redo fun content without making an entirely new character. So kudos to Borderlands 3 for that. And then you kind of just scrap everything from Borderlands, the pre-sequel, and Borderlands 3 that you just learned, and you kind of just ignore it for Wonderlands, because Wonderlands never really had that implementation of variety, which all the other Borderlands games did very well. I do get that Wonderlands did implement more DLC characters, but it just didn't feel right with the one skill trees. It did feel kind of lazy, and we just got a pearlescent, so you know, that's pretty good for vanilla Borderlands. Anyway, and it's been said 100 times. I've said it in a bunch of other videos. I don't want to go over it again. And now we're stuck in this limbo cycle of could have been. Wonderlands could have had a better endgame. New Tales from the Borderlands could have had more developed characters and better plots. Borderlands 3 could have had better co-op. You know, it's every game. We're going to live in this coulda, woulda, shoulda. What could have happened is we could have delayed these games for a year or so. We could have had closed beta testers. We could have had better community feedback. We could have had people listen, but, you know, we didn't. I think that's my main talking point here is I feel like we're losing touch with the community. We're losing touch with creators, especially people on the content creator team where, you know, as a person not a part of that circle of the creator team, I always assume that, you know, the devs would, you know, take the content creator team's feedback, build up upon it, and use them as the hidden connection between the general audience, the general public, and get to the devs and get very important things into their ears. But it seems like that's not how it works. It seems like the content creation team is more of a promotion team and doesn't have too much say-so in the game. And generally, that's how it is with a lot of companies. But if you look at the most successful companies and the most successful gaming franchises out there that have this kind of creator team, they listen. They listen to their creator team because they know that game best. If you dedicate yourself so much to a game, you have the whole stamp of I'm a creator for this company because I love this game so much. Why does that company not want to listen to the people that dedicated all that time, all that effort, and basically their whole content creation around that one game? I will fail to understand that. If you look at something like New World, how they're recovering, I do know it's an MMO and it's hard to compare an MMO with a looter shooter. They have New World creators. They have New World people in the community that talk to each other. They know what the players want because those creators let the devs know. They let them know and they let the forums know. And they could see through the vast majority of what people are doing what they want. And another big thing, a lot of the New World or even Warframe devs, they actually play their own game. So it's really, really easy for them to understand what we go through as a player. If you tell the devs, Eidolon hunts and Warframe lack endgame and they're not as challenging as I'd like them to be, they understand that because they play their game. I feel like there is none of that with Borderlands, and they could greatly benefit from the fact that if they play their own game, it feels like, oh, there's an issue, we kind of fixed it, here's a skeleton key code, you know, oh, there's this little bit of an issue, oh, we fixed it, here's half off SDUs for a week, or Chambers is dropping more crystals. You're covering up these major wounds with band-aids, and it's so much more apparent now than whenever. You gotta play the game that you make, or you will not understand who you're making the game for. I think that's a pretty nice quote to go off of from how Borderlands has been so poorly received in the past few years, and I'm not referring to Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 is good. I'm talking about New Tales, Wonderlands, etc. But Term, you are pretty good at pointing out all these negatives, and how about positives? How about ways to fix it? Well, in my opinion, in order for this series to even be fixed or thought about being fixed, has to come down to the devs. Because if the content creation team can't get in their ears, I know they have a few times based on some changes. If they can't get in their ears, if the general public can't get in their ears, who's going to, right? It's kind of just talking to a brick wall at some point where you put your time and effort into it and you don't know what to do anymore. So if I were to magically own Gearbox for 24 hours and like every change I said went through permanently, I would personally make Borderlands an online service game. And I know a lot of you might disagree with me with that because you love playing offline and co-op and all that, but gaming has evolved. I do understand that offline is great, but I would personally get all of the save files off of the player's end and make it online. So when someone shows their farmed gear or shows all these cool stuff, they're not modding it in, they're not save editing the whole thing into their build. It's more interactive. It's more unique. I would have crossplay on launch with every platform. I would make the search list menus just like we did in Borderlands 2, to where it showed every player that's online based on your story mission, based on your level, based on your playthrough. That's how I would personally fix that. And I think when it came to classes, I would always have 4 classes on launch, release 2 DLC classes, but you never know. I've heard some talks of a Borderlands MMO, and after posting New World and playing New World for a while, and I know how MMOs function, I do think Borderlands would benefit in a few ways from some of the MMO formulas, not the repetitive endgame, not things like that where you have to grind the same thing 200 times for a skin. I do think Borderlands should have a MMO style formula in some aspects, but Borderlands does thrive off of their variety and how well they do it, so I think they need to build upon that strength a little bit more, because they've always done variety content in a great way. It's just the amounts of content within that variety that's been the issue, and once they fundamentally fix that, I think the series is off for greater things. Greater things, online only. Bring the saves online and not in the player's hands. Allowing players to modify the game still. Maybe like Fallout 4 have a mods tab universally on Borderlands to where you could run community built and community driven mods by the click of a button, regardless if you're on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, you know? Being able to do that and have people upload it. We don't lose the modding capabilities by moving saves online. We can still mod the game just fine as long as Gearbox allows it. I would also make it to where if you are playing Borderlands and you are trying to farm something, instead of having a whole route, I think there should be a rally checkpoint system. And what do you mean by this term? Well, you know how in Wonderlands, every time you emote, your little battle flag pops up for a few seconds? I would allow a emote that places a rally flag, maybe Claptrap talks to you about it, or it's the new U station, or a new U rally point, or something, to where you can go anywhere in the Borderlands map, place down this rally flag, and when you hold E on the rally flag, maybe the whole group has to do it, and you all sit by the flag, you go to a black screen, and then the screen comes back, and you could group farm with each other. Can you imagine that concept where someone in the group's like, all right, let's flag down, let's flag right here, everyone holds E on the flag, holds X on the flag, and then the whole area is refreshed. The boss respawns, the activity respawns, and I do get people are gonna be like, oh, well, that's a good way to exploit and move out the map. Not really, you know, not really. If you allow the player to do this, they have to go to the point in specific to even do this. And if you're worried about like an armory style of content to where the chest room, you could just put the flag in the chest room, make bounds to where if you have Maliwan style takedown content and you have runs like that, just make it so the flag can't be placed during the run. Make it so if you want the player to farm takedowns, they have to do it the normal way. They can't just put a flag at the end of it and cheese it. I'm talking about like if you're trying to farm the Infinity in Borderlands 2, or you're trying to farm something else from another location from a side mission, that rally flag is there to help you out. But those are just my personal fixes to what I would do with the Borderlands series and why it's gone downhill. Not just from the game itself, but you know, the story feels lacked, the gameplay feels half-driven, like the passion for the entire series is kind of diminishing, and it's sad, man. I mean, I made my channel for Borderlands itself, and seeing how drastic the change is and how bad things are now makes me sad, you know, coming from Borderlands 2 and posting Borderlands 3 when it first came out. I feel like the hype was really there, and the passion for Borderlands was there. I like seeing when Randy posted something about a golden key, or, you know, K6 dropped a new video, you know, small things, right? I know I mentioned how devs don't communicate earlier, and I really hope maybe a dev dev or two stumbles on this video one day and, you know, they're chilling with their cup of coffee and they're like, you know what, this Termix guy, maybe we should listen to a few things. Maybe I'm not 100% right. Maybe the things I talk about are impossible to implement. I'm not a game dev. I'm just a guy that loves the Borderlands series, wants to see it succeed, and I miss it. I miss the feeling of enjoying a Borderlands game, and I think that's why so many people go back to Borderlands 2. It reminds us of those times where Borderlands was fun and adventurous and humorous and well written, that now when we look at the new games, we're like, damn, I really miss Borderlands 2. Now this video was a little bit long-winded. I do apologize for that. There's some things I wanted to say, and I don't want to make 4 videos with the same title for the sake of views, so if you've made it all the way through, I do appreciate that. I'm going to try to make Borderlands content that isn't me talking. It's kind of rough when I'm not a big fan of playthrough videos, and any other form of content's pretty difficult at the current state in the series. But I want this to get out there. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like on it. As you know, spreads my videos more out to the Borderlands community. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss out on another video from me. But everybody stay safe. Hope you have a terrific day, and I will see you guys later.